Hello my gamers and tax evaders alike. We discuss a lot of dumb things on my YouTube channel, like Dream. So today I'd like to take a minute to explore some more intellectual pursuits, if we will. Today we're gonna discuss, in my opinion, one of the greatest stories ever written, hands down. Now this is a story that is near and dear to my heart, and I've been coming back to it and rereading it for the past 7 or 8 years or so. I think it contains a lot of themes that we can all relate to, and it kind of explores the psychological relationship between rulers and the ruled. The title of the story is The King's Castration, and without further ado, let's get right into it. 'Twas the night of the King's Castration. The last of the royal balls was coming off. All the counts, discounts, and no counts were sitting around the throne room slinging camel shit, for in those days bullshit was as yet unknown. A noise was heard in the courtyard, and in came Daniel on his gallant white steed, with his balls slung over his shoulder. "What ho!" cried the king. "Asshole!" replied Daniel, thus scoring an early point for the common people. Now right off the bat, the story hits us with a lush opener. It establishes time, characters, and background. Daniel is a champion of the common people, and he's come to this lavish event to shine light on the inequities within their society. Not everyone has the luxury to celebrate their castration. Now, the story continues. At this, the queen dashed madly through the court with her drawers at half-mast and her ass shining like a looking-glass in the moonlight. Hilarious now, the king offered Daniel the post of second-in-command. "But what of the queen?" asked Daniel. "Oh, fuck the queen," replied the king, and 50,000 loyal courtiers were killed in the rush, for in those days the king's word was law, and the king ruled with an iron hand. Upon seeing such mass slaughter, the king, in exasperation, exclaimed, "Oh, shit!" And all 50,000 remaining loyal courtiers dropped their drawers and squatted on their haunches and strained and grunted in unison, for in those days the king's word was law, and the king ruled with an iron hand. "Stop!" cried the queen, thinking of the royal carpet. The king called halt, and 49,999 loyal buttholes snapped shut with a stately click, and 49,999 glistening turds were nipped, gently steaming in the morning air, all save for that of Daniel, who proceeded to lay one 2 cubits wide by 1 cubit high by 3 cubits long. Now, there's a lot of symbolism to break down in this previous passage, but I'd like to focus on the important key themes that are explored. Authority, when unchecked, can have dire consequences. Because the king is an authoritarian ruler, the loyal subjects will do anything he asks, even if it diminishes their own self-respect. And this even results in the death of thousands of people in a rush to fuck the queen, when the king inadvertently commands it. Power can kill, even on accident. The king was sore affronted, and ordered Daniel thrown into the lion's den for 3 days and 3 nights, for in those days the king's word was law, and the king ruled with an iron hand. And here was Daniel in the midst of these roaring, snarling beasts, but of course you could easily recognize Daniel by the large green parasol that he always carried. On the first day the queen came unto Daniel, and Daniel said, "O queen, I am in need of some tea." And the queen asked, "What manner of tea?" Daniel replied, "C-U-N-T," and the queen departed. On the second day, the queen came unto Daniel, and Daniel said, "O queen, I am in need of some pills." And the queen asked, "What manner of pills?" Daniel replied, "Nip pills," and the queen departed. Again on the third day the king came unto Daniel, but it had come to pass that on the morning of the third day, Daniel had shat a great shit, and the lions were sore affronted. Almost all of them had thenceforth kept their distance from Daniel, but one of the lions took a liking to Daniel's left nut, and began to munch upon it. "Oh, it tickles! It tickles!" cried Daniel. "What tickles?" asked the king. "Testicles!" roared Daniel, thereby scoring another point for the common people. Upon hearing this, all the ladies in the courtyard took out their tits and tittered. Now, Daniel has been put into a precarious and outright dehumanizing situation, being forced to live with lions for 3 days and 3 nights. In this time, he becomes an animal himself, which we can see in the conversations that he has with the queen, where he's only interested in worldly pleasures. Even after all of this, he still insults the king directly to his face, despite the possibility of further consequences for his actions. Daniel is a gladiator, a true warrior of the story. Then the lion crouched as if to spring, but instead laid a big turd. This amused the king, and he ordered Daniel to come forth, but Daniel slipped on the lion's turd and came 5th, thus utterly losing the race. This angered Daniel so greatly that he picked up the lion turd and, with menacing accuracy, hurled it at random. Random, being a crafty little bugger, ducked, and the turd hit the king full in the eye. Now this made the king exceedingly angry, whereupon he inquired, "Where's the queen?" "My lord, she is on the royal crapper." "And is she well supplied with paper?" "My lord, she has 40 reams of the finest linen." "It is good," said the king. "And where's the princess?" "Oh, she's upstairs in bed with laryngitis." "Not that fucking Greek again!" cried Daniel. This amused the king, and he spake, "Oh, fuck the princess." And another 40,000 loyal courtiers were trampled to death in the rush, for in those days the king's word was law, and the king ruled with an iron hand. And besides, the princess was a comely wench. This made the king exceedingly angry, but the queen only said, "Well, I'll be fucked," more in hope than in indignation. But nobody moved, save a solitary senile seneschal quietly masturbating in a corner into a silver teaspoon, and Daniel, who, taking her at her word, grabbed the queen by her butt cheeks and slipped her onto his dick like a well-worn jackboot. Yeah, so, Daniel is fighting for the rights. Fuck me, I don't know. Let's just keep reading the rest of the story. Later in the evening, the king entered the royal boudoir and beheld the queen lying on the bed, clad only in nature's attire. "Roll over, queen," ordered the king. "I'll be fucked if I will," shouted the queen. "You will at that," observed the king, "but you'll be cornholed if you won't." Hearing this, the queen shat a gold brick, for in those days a square asshole was a symbol of royalty. When the king saw this, he cried, "Balls!" Not because he had to, but because he had to. And the queen replied, "Balls! If I had to, I could be king." Whereupon the king, having partaken of overripe olives, hied himself to the innermost part of the kingdom and proceeded to shit buttermilk for 3 days, and thereafter was forever known as King Darius throughout the world. Blaming Daniel for his digestive discomfort, the king sentenced Daniel to wander in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, for in those days the king's word was law, and the king ruled with an iron hand. And so it came to pass that Daniel wandered in the wilderness for many a long day and many a long night. But in the evening of his 13th day in the wilderness, Daniel was set upon by bandits, not, as you might at first surmise, ordinary bandits, but Mexican bandits, nor, as you might at second surmise, ordinary Mexican bandits, but Mexican bum bandits, who debagged him, scragged him, and shagged him, and left him with his pockets jingling and his asshole tingling. Months went by before the queen came unto Daniel. "Oh, Daniel, I am heavy with child. What steps are to be taken?" "Fucking big ones," replied Daniel as he vanished over the southern horizon. The moral of this story? Family values matter. Don't trust those in power, and always carry around a green parasol. This will be my final video ever. I will see you all in hell.